Lovely to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. I just begin my this little sharing of experience with you. One day I was also a student like you and was doing my physics graduation in Kerala. But the idea of dance was always strong in me. And I would say probably a measure of success if you could think about our own personal experience rather than the commodities or the objects we acquire in life, like the cars and the houses and the money. And maybe that is the spirit with which I would like you to look at a journey of a dancer. And in dance, for example, if you look at entrepreneurship in any creative or cultural industries, these are some of the facts you have to think about. In a country like India, it has the potential to become the largest employer. In the UK, already 8% of the people are employed, and the economy is very much linked to this activity. And this was me when I was a young student in the college. And over a period of time, I started working with several masters started to train in Kerala with Kalarippayattu Kshemavati. Then I went on to study with the Dhananjayans in Chennai and also in Kalakshetra. This was when I was a student of Bharatanatyam. I used to do solo performances in Bharatanatyam, but always wondered what will be our expression of today. And I was venturing with the theater, with the contemporary choreographers, but and also martial art forms like Kalarippayattu, for example, and several kinds of folk dance forms. This is me practicing in martial art. And then I went to, I didn't want to rediscover the wheel because there are already several contemporary expressions. Then I went to London where I studied at the London Contemporary Dance School, studied in ballet, movement, stagecraft, choreography, many other things like African dance and Capoeira, Brazilian martial art. And I had a company in London. I just give you a gist of my own personal journey so that you get an idea. Then in the UK, we were a funded organization. We had support from the Arts Council, support from the several regional arts boards. I even represented the UK. But the calling of our own country was very important for me because that is the first reason I went to the UK. So after 14 years of being in the UK and traveling around the world, I set up this institute in Bangalore, Attakkalari Center for Movement Arts. You know, one of our productions, this is Parabola, some of the productions you can see. Gyroscape, Beyond the Walls for Men. This is on the famous, iconic South Bank Center. It's on the rooftop of the South Bank Center. Story of men, actually, Beyond the Walls for Men, dealing with the life of men. And this is a city map, desired to be in different parts of the world, based on Italo Calvino's novel, Invisible City. And, you know, over the years, I went through many of these productions, and technology was an important aspect. And some of you will relate to it very much. And the light, for example, the torchlight in the traditional performance probably was one of the earlier technologies. Now, could you press play? Yeah. Now, for example, technology has got this possibility of digital technology, which offers us non-linear navigation, non-linear organizing of thought, and this does fantastic things on stage because it's interactive scenography. What we can employ on stage is fabulous. Now, this is from a production called Trans Avatar. I work with a German digital designer, Chris Siegler, and a British composer called Joseph Hyde, treating body as an architecture and multiple layers of identities is dealt with in this production. This is a morphed images of all the dancers together, neither man or a woman. This is a solo performance from Scanned 5, an interactive performance model with Christian Siegler. Moving on. And one of the processes by which we make production is do storyboard so that artists from different disciplines could engage with that idea, with that concept, and then develop their own mediation in their own particular art form before we come together. Sometimes online communications are also employed if the artists are living in different parts of the world. This is a production called Purushartha. I was working with 3 Japanese artists, digital art designer, information architect, and then also a composer. So each stage we have to calibrate as to exactly get the performance arena with the projection dimensions sorted out. So that calibration was very important, and how that interactivity was done on stage, live on stage, because you capture the images, you process it, and that is actually triggering the music and the visual projections. The stage becomes a very active animateur in that sense. This is from a production of the same production, Purushartha, which had the first time an Indian dance company was invited to the very famous Venice Biennale, Munich Contemporary Dance Festival, Bologna, and many, many festivals all over Europe and Japan and Korea, and of course India too. And the stage is interactive. All these images, what you are seeing, they are all interactive images. As we move, we trigger these images. And there are programs like Max MSP, and there are many, many programs you might be familiar with. And this gives a lot of possibilities. I was talking to my friend who was helping me with everything here. Then he is interested in design. I thought, you know, because you have that understanding about technology, particularly digital technology, the possibilities of interactive design is so much in India today. And then I think that possibility you should use. And I think the days now we are performing on stage can also be changed. Like, for example, this performance was in Trafalgar Square in London, very iconic tourist space. So we are trying to put the idea of Bangalore into London. So this is from the idea of people going into the park and doing exercises in the morning. From that image come from. And motorbikes, it's a face of Bangalore, whether men or women, they drive motorbikes. So all of these things gives me the ability to tell the story of our time, you know. And this is a production called For Peanut, paying homage to the iconic choreographer Pina Bausch, German choreographer. This is on the rooftop of the Max Muller Bhavan in Delhi. And this is in the garden. This is in the portico. This is in Qutub Shahi at in Hyderabad. So any location, you could make your stage. And that is, that brings the performance very close to the audience as well. And this is, for example, at the National Gallery of Modern Art for the inauguration of Attakkalari India Biennial, a festival that has got 25 countries participate and more than 300 artists from all over the world. And this is from a production called May Dhwani. May in Tamil is body, and Dhwani in Sanskrit is the echo or suggestion. And this body is of echoes of the body. And this production, for example, represented India in the Europalia Festival, and it is also going to travel to Australia in the month of September, October. And I think, some of the dancers come from very humble background. Some even are the sons of coconut sellers, or sometimes, from very poor background. Some are also doctors and engineers. Some actually even have joined us after IIT, for example, was working in London, but had the calling of, listened to the calling of dance, for example, because they felt it doesn't complete their life. Everybody is not after money. Some people are also after self-realization. So these performances give people a voice, people a kind of an ability to transform themselves and express themselves. These are all images from May 20. I don't have enough time to talk about what is the story behind that. This is Adhara Chakra dance log. This we also performed in Chennai, also May 20 at Music Academy. Adhara Chakra, for example, was telling the story of the cities of our country. And this has got filmmaker from the UK and several collaborators from all over the world, commissioned by Max Muller-Pavan. And now, when you look at Attakkalari, for example, one of the things we did was to understand what is entrepreneurship. Because I told you, dance, to take dance as a career was difficult for a young boy or a young man, and equally probably a young woman too. And especially if you are taking up contemporary dance, it's an untrodden path. So I wanted to understand what are the possibilities of entrepreneurship in this. So, these are some of the objectives and strategies we set up: education, production, presentation, and profile building, network and dissemination, outreach, awareness building, and audience. And many of these activities, developing stakeholders, spreading the message in people like you. Now, in the beginning, when we were starting the program in Bangalore, people were not ready to pay. Schools used to ask, can you do a performance? It will give you an exposure. We said, no, we don't need the exposure. But when we started to pay the dancers, when we insisted on that, now the whole equation has changed. Many of the institutions in Bangalore and all over the country are requesting choreographers and dancers to work with them. They are ready to pay. And there is enough exposure, and you can see on television, on cinema, and on live performance. And I'm sure many of you are also great dancers too. And this is the picture of Attakkalari today. Many activities, a diploma program, a repertory company. We teach in schools and colleges and also for the community. We have an international biennial festival. We have a technology department. We also do research and development projects as well. Now, this is how the studio started. A very humble beginning. It was a garage. We converted. And this was the first batch, the first performance. And we converted these cupboards on this wall. And then from then, contemporary dance training took off. And this was from the hoarding of the book, Hindu, for example, that was doing a photo shoot. This is some of the students in our diploma program, ballet and Bharatanatyam, contemporary dance style, Kalarippayattu, many of these forms. Indian and international teachers also take classes. This is from our outreach program. And this is a choreography residency to develop young choreographers, Facets Choreography Residency. It's an international residency. Teachers as well as participants come from all over the world. And I think over the years, what Attakkalari has done is creating that model of how to produce quality work, how to give training in creating quality work, how to place the creativity at the center of your art, and how do you empower young people? How do you enable them to make new beginning? Not only in Attakkalari's company, but also in starting their own work. And today, one of our young choreographers has won the Stuttgart solo dance competition. That is out of 700 choreographers. And we also have this technology department. And that gives the cutting-edge technology to all the visiting performing groups, international performing groups visiting India, and also our own work, but also young colleagues of our own. And I think that is the beauty of dance bringing life to you. I'll just show you a small excerpt of corporate work. This is not our artistic work, but a corporate performances. For the opportunity to talk to you. I really value this opportunity to share my experience with all of you. Really.